Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Reference Point. I'm your host, Dave Cokerhook, and we're back again to cover this second segment of discussion about the Bay Area After School All-Stars. So joining me again, Krista Krames, who is the Director of Development for this local chapter here, the Bay Area After School All-Stars.
Correct.
And Adrian Morales, who is a site supervisor at a school in San Jose called, what's it called?
Baccarat Academy.
Baccarat. You know, that's an interesting...
It is.
I look at the way that it's spelled out, and that's...
Most people can't pronounce it.
Most can't pronounce it. It's like my last name, Cokerhook. A lot of people have trouble pronouncing that, but that's okay.
Yep.
Well, I wanted to bring us back to some additional conversation. In our last segment, we got to know a little bit about the history of the organization, how it started out focused dominantly on athletics and sports and has grown into an area more of dealing with academics and several other components that we'll talk about in this segment. It's grown from a California-based organization to a national organization. You have chapters, 11, I guess, in 11 states or 11 chapters across the country in multiple states. And what was it, Krista? You told me the number of children that it serves now.
Over 85,000 nationally, and in our chapter is 2,300 students.
2,300 in the San Francisco Bay Area, 80 some odd thousand, 85 nationally.
We average about 100 per school site in the Bay Area chapter, but we have kids on the wait list at every school.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, we're going to want to dig into some more things, but actually what I wanted to do first, because you guys were good enough to provide me with a little bit of information, because there's some data about your organization up on YouTube, and there's a little over 3-minute clip that I think introduces the organization and the concepts very well, and I want to play that right now, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go along. So if we're ready, let's take a look at this video.
When you were a kid, what did you do after school? For many kids today, the options aren't great. Those 3 hours after school are problem time.
I would go to my grandma's house and just watch TV.
Be lazy. To get high or to drink.
There's a lot of gangs.
So it's very dangerous to play outside. You could get shot.
That's where After School All-Stars comes in. We give kids activities that matter. We call it a comprehensive program. With 1 million kids dropping out of high school each year, our We Are Ready program helps our middle schoolers get ready for high school so they will succeed and graduate.
I do my homework more than what I do at home.
It definitely has kept my daughter out of the streets.
There's a kid named Benjamin. He was a troubled kid because he didn't have role models.
My writing wasn't so good. It was awful, most people said.
Now that he's been in our program, he has improved his grades.
1 out of 3 kids is either overweight or obese by the 3rd grade. So we offer our healthy lifestyle program, Sports as a Hook, to fight youth obesity and keep all kids healthy and active.
I felt really concerned about my body, and I thought that I didn't have a body to play sports.
We teach young women how to have self-confidence, how to trust in themselves.
Through our program, Life Service Action, we connect our students to the community and empower them to have a voice.
You build friendships with everybody. It's just a lifelong experience you'll never forget.
Kids are growing up in a rapidly changing and challenging economy that requires new skills and knowledge. Through our Career Exploration Opportunities program, kids are learning how to succeed in the 21st century.
Stand for me, stand for you, don't fall for nothing, don't fall for nothing.
I've been involved for 20 years in After School All-Stars. 50% of the kids don't have parents in the afternoon because they're working. The danger zone for children is between 3 and 6 o'clock in the afternoon. We want to teach kids to say yes to sports, yes to education, yes to after-school programs, yes to life. And this is what we need to do for so many millions and millions of kids all around the world.
We serve nearly 90,000 students across the country. Our kids make better grades, are more likely to finish high school, have bigger dreams, and build better lives. Working together, we can serve so many more and change.
Well, what we've got here is obviously an organization that is focused on a very specific mission, message, thing that you're trying to do. And so what we just saw is pertinent to the national program, okay? So let's talk a little bit and bring it home a little bit. Let's talk about what we're doing here in the Bay Area now with each of these types of things. There was this thing that they mentioned called Life Service Action, which sounds very interesting. We didn't talk about this in the last segment. We talked about the academics and we talked about the athletics. Adrian, can you tell us a little bit about what the Life Service Action Program is all about here and how it's having an impact?
Sure, absolutely. Our Life Service Action Program is focused on allowing students an outlet to really make an impact in their community. They're able to learn about social issues. We have specific dates that we focus on, including Martin Luther King Jr. Day, also Cesar Chavez Day, where they learn the history of different things that have happened in the past, and they're able to take that on and build upon that knowledge and expose themselves to being able to make a difference in their direct community by whether it's cleaning up their area, cleaning up local parks, writing letters to our policymakers in Sacramento or even in Washington, and different outlets to really express what they feel is important in the world now.
And Adrian is at the elementary school level for Life Service Action, but at our middle school level we also offer speech and debate workshops as part of Life Service Action. And we do encourage like student council, and it's really fundamentally built around leadership skills and kids taking ownership of being a voice in their community.
Mm-hmm. It's from the way you described it, it sounds like it's got a couple of different layers of activity. It's you want the students, the young people, to understand some of the history of our communities, okay? But it also sounds like you want them to get involved directly in activities within the community where they're actually contributing. They're doing something. They're not and it's not just a letter writing campaign, but they're actually getting out there and engaging with, whether it's the senior center or, like you said, cleaning up the graffiti off the walls or whatever it happens to be. Am I reading that correctly?
It's less about the history and more about those leaders individually.
Okay.
But you are reading it correctly in that's the scope of what we're trying to get kids understanding is being part of their community, being a voice in their community, understanding that service and action are life skills that are part of what's going to take them towards success.
How do the kids respond to this?
I think the elementary school kids love it. They are so engaged at the thought of being asked to help and to be involved. So, I mean...
Yeah, last year we were fortunate enough to take a field trip to the Humane Society, a shelter for animals that otherwise they would not be able to see. So they were able to really go in there, interact with the animals and see exactly what that organization does. So it provides them with the ability to take ownership of these issues and these ideas that are harder for them to grasp without that direct experience.
They have a value-based role in it, which is important. And then at the middle school level, and this is what I think, again, after school AllStars, it's our strength, is that at middle school, kids could choose to go home. Right. I mean, they can walk home at middle school. Their parents can say, we don't want you to come home after school, but it's difficult to enforce if both parents or it's a single parent home if they're working. They're not getting home anyway. Our middle schoolers are choosing to be there. And that really is something to consider. Wow. Because they want to be there. They are engaged in their future and understand us as part of their success. And so Life Service Action, for those middle schoolers, it consists of like speech and debate workshops, as I mentioned, but also some of these field trips can be understanding poverty, and that may culminate into a Sacred Heart visit, homeless shelter at the local community level. I think that that this Life Service Action piece is starting to get a lot of momentum. State Farm is a big proponent of it. MetLife is interested in it. So we were on the cutting edge earlier on. Teach for America is also a real proponent of this, because I think that what happens often as you start to try to serve youth, you forget the value add that they have on their own future and what they can contribute back to the community. And that's a lesson that shouldn't be overlooked, and kids really respond pretty well to it.
Yeah.
That's great. So when you look at the kids that have come through the program over the years, do you have any sense of how what they have learned through the program has impacted their future? Is there a way to measure that?
I think absolutely. Students are coming back all the time to our elementary school where I used to work at, and also the one I work at now. They come back and visit. They feel like it's a second home for them.
Wow.
They feel like they've done something, they've accomplished something that is powerful in their life. One of our team members, one of our youth instructors, she herself was part of the inner city games, and now she works for the After School AllStars. Her mom works for the After School AllStars.
Wow.
So it's something that once they go through it, of course you'll get the students that are, I don't want to be here, I want to go home. But they're gaining so much from being there, and they don't realize it until after, when they can reflect on all of it and see how much they've grown and how much it's given to them, and then they look to give back to it. So that's how we measure success. The stories that we hear of that, if I didn't go to After School AllStars, and I don't know who I would be today. So
there are a lot of individual anecdotes around that. We also do have some other depth of measurement, which we look at in attendance. We know that the kids that participate in After School AllStars have an 8% higher rate of attendance. That's throughout the whole state. I mean, that's just it's done. And then district by district, they'll share statistics, API scores, and we'll look at that information as well. With different strategic partners, we have a grant through the Knight Foundation where we are partnered with Schmoop, which is a really fun, quirky curriculum that was designed to help create a more solid digital literacy and media literacy understanding for kids.
Which is huge.
It's huge, but right now we are only able to pilot at 2 of our schools based on the funding. But we do a pre and post survey, and we take that information and we look and see, are kids really understanding that it matters to understand the social and credibility, the social credibility around the sources.
Right.
Understand what they're saying is the truth. So when you look at and you Google something, just because it walks like a duck and talks like a duck doesn't make it a duck.
Right.
And we overlook that is a challenge for students in this day and age.
Right.
That it would be very easy to cut and paste something you see on the internet that says the Holocaust never happened.
Right.
And you're doing a paper on World War II.
Right.
You know, people have to begin to take some ownership of what are credible sources, and we look at how we can impact that.
Right. So you mentioned this other entity, Schmoop, or whatever it's called. So that actually leads me into a question about other organizations that you might collaborate with, because when you think about different kinds of programs, and one of the things that you talked about earlier, Krista, I think it was in the last segment, had to do with you guys have a definitive plan, and you know what you're doing, and you do these things that are part of the program of After School AllStars. But it isn't necessarily everything that might be needed to support, or shall we say, to provide extra activity for the public school system or the school system in general, because the school system in general has got some challenges right now.
Sure.
So do you have collaborative activities, and how does that actually come into play?
So you saw mentioned in the video of the CEO program.
Yes.
And that's part of the 21st century skill set, the workforce, work-life skills. We got a $5,000 grant from eBay Foundation to support the CEO program, and we will take our students to eBay. And we will have them, we'll first prep them to understand what eBay does, it as a business model, and then we'll have them interview the executives that they choose for us to give up their time with us, and expose kids to that work environment. We brought a group of kids, we mentioned Schmoop earlier, I brought a group of kids there to test this curriculum before we rolled it out to the sites. And one of the students, and this was just here in Mountain View at an office building, said, "This is my first time inside an office building."
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a different sort of perspective. And they had a great time. So we have various strategic partnerships. We have one with Music for Minors that we're bringing into a lot of the elementary schools, and they're funded often by Rotary and grants and volunteers, and they have a strict curriculum teaching music to kids. And we offer it as a Friday sort of club. But you know, where we see the need or where a principal is acknowledged a whole, and that again changes from school site to school site. Part of what our enrichment manager, our academic and enrichment coordinator, what she does is seek out those kinds of partnerships and be able to address that either with the staff, like Adrian. Adrian may hire staff, right, for enrichment that have certain talents. So if he knows at Baccarat that they really need someone that knows Photoshop and that his kids are super interested in making cards for their parents, and then he's going to look to hire a person who is
somebody that has that skill set.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about you've got these different components. We've talked a little bit about the health and fitness, the academics, life service action, and do all the kids participate in all the things? How does, you only have 5 days in the week,
right?
Okay, how do you get all this stuff done?
Well, that's definitely a struggle I've been dealing with. You know, when the school that I work at, we get out about 3 o'clock. The students get out. Some of the students get out at 3:15. So really trying to get as much as we can into the program is essential. We're able to do it through being efficient with our time, with making sure that our transitions are quick and things like that. And it lets them look forward to the specific components. They know after Learning Lounge, which is what we call our academic component, after Learning Lounge is health and fitness. They go outside, they get to play different games that they don't get to play to. When I was in elementary school, PE was there every day, and it was something you look forward to every day. And I know that, and I know that these students love it. And so we engage them by providing them for the opportunity, and then some of them that are reluctant to do it, we provide them outlets of other things that they can do. Okay, well, if you don't want to be playing basketball, then you can go do this over here. You can try and see how many push-ups you can get. Little things like that. Our goal is to really incorporate every single student. That way they're exposed to the things that they may be reluctant to otherwise. So yeah, we are able to fit all 3 components in every single day.
And to be the bearer of bad news, like I was earlier with the statistics, I will say that only once a week is PE offered at a school.
At a school? You're kidding.
No.
That used to be a big deal for me too.
Right, and you can even have flashbacks about daily PE when you were growing up. I'm not so far off that, but the truth is the obesity statistic that they quoted in the video, that's part of this health and wellness component that is so critical to what we're doing every day. It's not really just sports, it's really about kids understanding nutrition, making choices, and overall wellness. I mean, we offer other aspects to psychological, emotional well-being as well. And again, we'll partner as needed with outside providers and bring them in.
And if I can interject, everything that we do isn't intentional. So we don't just say, here's a ball, go play. We are teaching them what they're doing, and we're teaching them why they're doing it. So every month we go through different nutrition aspects. We talk about the cardiovascular system. We talk about eating habits, things like that. So we're able to do everything with a purpose, so that they understand what they're doing. They're not just feeling like, oh, people are watching us play basketball.
Right. So is this true throughout the national scope of the organization, what we just talked about here?
Yes, it is true, and I think that you look nationally also at what public education has been forced to cut out, and you see that our after-school program is focusing on the 21st century skill set, because we know that that's where schools need us to supplement.
Right. So what are the expansion plans for your organization?
I don't know that we are focused on expansion. We're really looking at the depth of what we're doing, but we have been approached, and there are certainly those opportunities there, and we're not opposed to trying to do that. So we're looking at other communities for the fall, but we also want to make sure that the services that we're delivering are impactful and, as Adrian mentioned, intentional, and that we continue to do a good job. So we have to match our fundraising with our expansion.
Right.
And sometimes, that's difficult to stay ahead of the curve. If we go into a community where we don't know, we have no staff or we have no background,
right.
we need a little ramp up time to be able to know who are the players that are interested in after school and in making a difference in that community. So I think that those two are paired together.
You had mentioned earlier that you have about 100 students in each location here in the Bay Area, but you have a waiting list. And is that due to the resources? If you had more resources, you could bring more kids into the program, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it breaks my heart knowing that there are students that need the program. There are parents that every day need the program. It's important because, when we do try and have parents engage, we tell them, this is a grant-funded program. We'd like you to be able to have your students here every single day so that we can really enforce the 3 components that we are trying to do. Otherwise, if we're looked at as just, we're just here to provide care before I can get out, then it's not really what we're aiming for. We're not a daycare.
We're not a babysitting
we're not a babysitting.
No.
We're looking directly.
And you asked about parent engagement, and I think I mentioned our parent appeal campaign. I mean, we seek for 100% participation from parents. To give it whatever level that they can give it, so that it represents that they recognize that we are a real value add for their family. And I'm happy to say that we ran the first one last year, and we were at 82% across our 23 schools, which is really impressive. And 2 of our schools were 100% participation.
Wow.
And it really does strike you when you get a note from a student who says, my grandfather can give you $5 this week because he has to pay for gas, but next week he promises another $5.
Oh, wow.
Right? So it really does say to me that the kids also want their parents giving and understanding that they are benefiting and that they are engaged in their future.
Well, it also implies to me that the parents understand there's a value here.
Sure.
And that they're whatever level of engagement that they can participate in based on their circumstances gives them a sense of pride that they're actually contributing to the positive situation for their kids. Now, I want to go back to something that we haven't really talked about yet, but it's been mentioned a couple of times, grant thing and all that kind of stuff. And there is a baseline, is there not, of funding for organizations like yours that are part of the way the California budget is structured. Isn't that correct?
Correct. It's an ACES grant. So I mentioned it earlier as After School Education and Safety. So it's part of Prop 49, which was Governor Schwarzenegger at the time's champion, and we are often worried that it could be put back on the ballot, but the proposition could come back up and overturned. But it has offered a security for many after-school programs and school districts to be able to provide this to their students.
So the districts are behind this kind of a thing because they know that they don't have the resources to be able to do it within the structure that they have to operate.
Absolutely, but the districts can choose to do it themselves. They can choose to operate themselves. What they find, though, more often than not, is that we do it cheaper and more effectively because it's what we do, and it's the thing we do. So they usually will recognize that, but we're paid through the district for this. So the district gets this Title I funding, and then it's passed through to us as their partner after-school program of choice.
Right. I want to remind the folks to go up onto your website. We're going to put that up again right now so that you can go up to the website so that you can learn a little bit more about what the program is doing. You can, I think there's a link that you could, if there's something you want to contribute in a way of time or effort or funds, you can certainly do that, and that information is up there too. And then again, info@referencepointtv.com is the email address for Reference Point, so if there are any questions that you at the audience have for the folks here, Adrian and Krista, please send those questions in and we'll get them to them. You may be able to find them on their website as well, I don't know. So let's get back to, we're getting down to the end of the segment here. I want to, as a nonprofit organization, you have the luxury in community access television of letting people know who you are and what it is that you do and how they can support you. So I want to give you the opportunity to speak to that.
Well, we are always looking for volunteers in the community that would want to participate and lend their talents. So if it's in our enrichment component, if you are an artist, if you are a vocalist, if you have performing arts background, we will certainly find a school that would welcome you as a vendor to do that. If you're a nutritionist, then we will find a spot for you in our health and wellness program. But like many nonprofits, we are certainly resource deprived. And so if you are more inclined to have money than time, we welcome your donations as well, because as I mentioned before, over and above what we're funded from the grant is what we need to fundraise to be able to make up the difference.
Right, and you have certain things that you do periodically during the course of the year that are you had an event recently, if I remember correctly.
We did. Last weekend we had our first ever gala called Spring Starlight, and that was at the home of Kelly Porter in Los Altos Hills. It was dancing and a gourmet chef, celebrity chef dinner, James Aptekin, who was the winner of the Food Network Challenge. I pulled in every friend in favor that was ever owed me, and we had an event, and it was
absolutely fun. I didn't have the opportunity to go, but
I wish you would have come. I was surprised. The weather was pouring rain and windy that morning, and I was almost in tears. But I had spent the money for a tent, regardless, to tent his terrace in addition to his fabulous ballroom that everybody danced the night away in. And it was great, and we netted $62,000 for the organization.
And I understand that the kids were there, and they did a lot at the event, didn't they?
They greeted everyone as they came in. We didn't have all of our kids there.
Yeah, well, of course, 2,300. But
we had a few kids from Horace Mann. I'll give them a shout out, and they greeted them. We had a one child sing to get up on the stage, which in and of itself, singing to in this kind of impressive home in front of an audience of people that you don't know said a lot for that little girl's confidence. And then they also just were part of the evening's success, passing out programs and talking to people, encouraging a fund to cause. We looked at field trips and end of year celebrations, and so we certainly had them pitching that as well to donors.
Well, we're pretty much out of time again. I mean, it's amazing how rapidly these 30-minute segments go. Yeah. So I want to thank both of you again very much for coming and just being on Reference Point. I do this show because I believe there are pieces of information out there that the public needs to know about. Whether it's your nonprofit or is it something about how to get your business started if you want to be an entrepreneur and do something. We cover all kinds of topics here. And I'm real happy that you came, because this program, which I only learned about a few weeks back, I've lived in the Bay Area for many, many years, and just found out about you guys a few weeks back, and I'm real glad that you came to join us. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you and the audience for joining us today, and do go up to the Bay Area After School All-Stars website, learn more about what they're doing, communicate with Krista and Adrian or anyone else at the organization asking your questions, and support them in some fashion. If you have a skill and have time, do so. If you don't have time but you have the wherewithal, even volume of contribution isn't as important as the fact that you do. So, Krista and Adrian, again, thank you so much for joining us on Reference Point. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time. Thank you.